No matter what kind of company they're building, every founder starts with some version of the same impulse. Imagine if this could be different. The early days of a company are a fragile time. Everything is still possible, but it's also where most things fall apart. You're making foundational decisions that will set the course for the next 10 years. This year on In-Depth, we asked founders to go back to the beginning and walk us through how they got to work and made it real, in much more detail than they've ever shared before. The first thread usually runs further back than most people realize.
I dropped out freshman year of high school, so ninth grade. I was working at Burger King. I was a manager, which was interesting. I fired my cousin. I worked there for a little bit, and then I was just hacking around on the internet on the side.
It was this Minecraft server that I started when I was 12. By the time I was 16, it had reached millions of players, was generating hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit.
What eventually turned into a company usually started off as a personal frustration or a front row seat to someone else's.
I was just so annoyed using the business banks that I used as an entrepreneur. And some ways it was an intuitive kind of idea that I just wanted to build this product for myself.
I saw my mom open her dog grooming business with so much excitement early on. It was hard for her to attract the critical mass of those people that she needed in order to sustain the business. She not only was scared about losing our business, but losing our house, which she had taken out loans against to start the business with. So I started experimenting. And when we started testing this, it was basically just the first business that was actually optimized for these local terms, of which there are hundreds of queries every month locally with intent to buy. And it translated into sales like bananas. Over the next year, I saw my mom go from struggling to then crushing it. I was inspired to build a business around doing that for as many people as possible.
What comes next is usually the longest stretch and the quietest.
Is really, really hard to build an EDI platform that can do this. And that's what I'm committed to do. And I'm not going to pull the ripcord, and we're going to win this by going through the muck for longer than anybody else. And we got exactly what we wanted. We did indeed go through the muck for a very long time. It took 4.5 years for us to launch anything publicly. What you don't see during that time was that we threw away everything that we had built completely, every line of code, maybe 8 times.
We had gotten this advice of you should launch early. You need to get this out there. Don't be afraid of failing with your launch. But we knew that we were in a space that if we launched too early and the product wasn't good, it would sort of be a waste of everyone's time.
We just said, where's all the hardware in the world made faster? And everything and everyone pointed us to Shenzhen. So we just decided to just go to Shenzhen and go live there. And we're like, oh, we'll go for a month or two. We'll figure it out. And turns out we were wrong. We ended up living there for a year and a half.
Then there's the hard work of finding out what people think.
I closed myself in a room, in a walk-in closet where we were living. And every day I was at least for a whole hour, I'm going to call up a bunch of businesses using a Yelp page. So every day, you just kind of start calling one by one and you pitch stuff. So every day it's you pitch something a little bit different because you learn a bunch of stuff from yesterday and you're working on stuff. So you were using that as an opportunity.
That was our key hypothesis, that to turn this into a recurring revenue machine, we need to really build a product for teams who are building applications powered by APIs. And we found hundreds of companies willing to be part of that beta program. We ran that beta program for about 6 months or so. I tested for that by putting the highest price point I could think of with the lowest possible amount of features. And I would say, how many will still sign up for this thing? And actually, that was the best pricing test we kind of ever did. And within our first month, we had about 50, 60 customers just start right away. And everybody's like, holy shit, we are in business now. It changed very dramatically for us once we got our first few customers.
Sometimes there are glimmers of hope.
4 days after launch, someone signed up, never spoke to us, and transferred $1 million into a Mercury bank account. And I was like, wow. That blew my mind because, my assumption was always maybe some small people just self-service, but I always thought I'd have to build a sales team. I never thought someone with $1 million would move money into Mercury without speaking to a sales team.
We built a prototype and 5 days later, the Zapier team started using it. And the prototype was terrible. It was so ugly, barely ran. I won't even bore you with the gory details, but people were using it.
But what looks like progress isn't always what it seems.
If you're actually a strong founder, you can sell anything, right? So you'll get weak product market fit almost out of any idea.
And sometimes the thing that's working isn't the thing you should keep building.
We always try to convince each other, this is not a huge difference. This is not a big pivot we are doing. We are still doing compute in the cloud. It's just a completely new workload. So maybe it's not that bad, right? Like we tried to convince each other like the pivot is not as drastic as it actually is. So we lost some time actually in that phase where, okay, maybe this is not a pivot. Maybe we are just changing direction a little bit. One thing actually you told us resonated a lot with us. You said, okay, which of the idea you think you're going to reach 1 million ARR first? And then which of the ideas you think you're going to reach 10 million ARR first?
Which is why the hardest decisions are rarely behind you.
You have to be opinionated on, you are building the product that would be broadly needed, not by what this one customer wants or this two customer wants. In AppDynamics, our customer number 3 was Netflix. They were just starting to transition from DVD company to a streaming company. Suddenly okay, we're gonna boom completely in the cloud and become the online streaming company. When we started working with them, they were like 300 servers. That's the total thing. And they became 30,000 servers running in the cloud in a couple of years. That was the hardest decision I probably ever made. We decided to lose them. I couldn't get anything else done in the engineering roadmap. At that time, we had 200 customers. They all have the requirements and things and feature requests and things that they want. And then we had Netflix as number 1 customer. They have a lot of requirements and things that we have to do. That's where it was clear, I cannot serve the other customers. It's just a very hard choice to make that we just cannot serve other customers. So supporting that one customer, which was such a great customer to have, and to have to lose them after 3 years was a painful choice to make.
You got to say no to things. It was Best Buy and they sent an RFC a long time ago. And I'm like, I don't even know what an RFC is. I think I quickly looked it up and I'm like, I'm not doing this. This seems like a lot of work. I had also then gotten advice to validate that it's unlikely we were going to win this anyway, so don't waste the time. But I didn't want to do it, so I just chose not to do it. And that's my personality. I don't do things that I don't want to do. I'm like, this does not look like the best spend of my time. I would rather get 10 new customers instead of Best Buy. And it wasn't optimizing for dollars, it was optimizing for traction. And so I said no. And so that was a really important no. There's another customer, an insurance company, that wanted us to install antivirus for compliance reasons on devices. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And I said no. Neither of them became customers at the time, right? Both of them are now customers. And so I think this idea of focus and knowing, just say no to things that you don't believe in are actually really, really important.
But if you're lucky, something shifts and things eventually start to click into place.
Change Healthcare was the largest clearinghouse for claims. They got hit by cyber attack. It's like AWS went down for 60 days. Everything comes to a stop. What we built was a set of drop-in replacements for their APIs so that people could migrate directly from them to us. And immediately it spreads like wildfire. You don't have the chance to go viral in the B2B world very often. People go viral in the consumer world. In this case, it was viral. 3 weeks into this, I had not left my keyboard. You wake up at 4:35 in the morning, you work till midnight, you get some sleep, you come right back to it. And my wife said, you have to go outside. We have to go on a walk. You have to go outside. And I went on this walk for 15 minutes. And in that time period, I took 3 calls from CEOs and CTOs who were desperate to get back up and running. People who were behind hundreds of millions of dollars on claim submissions, are going to run out of money if you don't get them back online. For the next few months after that, it was like a snake swallowing a deer. Where yes, a snake can digest a deer if a snake is big enough, but this is not going to be a particularly fun digestion process. We had to digest all these customers that we had landed, and then we had to build a repeatable go-to-market motion that was not dependent on your competitors getting hit by massive cyber attacks.
I remember when I would meet a cool customer, I would spend a few days before the customer meeting preparing a demo that was extremely specific to them. So let's say you're talking to Instacart, you might prepare a grocery app demo or something. At Braintrust, I would just show up and show them some generic use case that is what everyone is doing. And people would literally look at the screen and point, I could see them point at the screen and say I need exactly that now. I have spent almost no effort or no energy trying to convince anyone that they need our product. And I think that is a pretty clear sign of product market fit.
Now you have a whole different set of problems.
In the very early on, when you think of go-to-market, you think of people talk about product market fit. I sometimes say you should think of product market sales fit. If you design a product, which is what problem you're solving, what is your solution, that's a product market fit. But if you have not figured out how to sell it, you may have to redesign the product. If you're going to sell it to enterprise or mid-market, you're going to sell it through PLG or you're going to sell it through sales-led. How you design the product is very dependent on how you're going to sell it. So if you don't think about it the product is solving the problems, your go-to-market is going to be PLG, and you didn't really design for that experience, that's not going to work. You're going to sell into large enterprise and you didn't design it properly. So to me, figuring out what the go-to-market would be is very, very key.
Hiring was the first thing that came to mind for where we went slow. I think we were at 4 employees when we crossed $1 million in ARR for the first time. We care a lot about the efficiency of each person. And so we were very thoughtful about each individual person that joins. Nailing that one person was way more important to us than trying to get a 10, 20 person engineering team that didn't care as much.
When we're looking at candidates that we're bringing in, I like to make people tell me on the interview panel, who are they better than at the company? Just to make sure that we're never bringing in somebody that we feel like is just good enough and just like kind of past the bar. We want to say, no, that they're really good. They're like better than all those folks. They're like amazing. And we want people that are excited to bring in people that are better than them. Like hopefully every person I bring in is better at the job that they're doing than I would be. And hopefully everyone that's on those interview panels is excited to bring people in. That's going to elevate that group, that team. But underneath all of it, the customers, the traction, the team, there's a simpler question.
How do I want to spend my life? I want to spend my life working on hard problems with smart people, and I want to look in the mirror every day and be faced with the question of how good am I? Like, I think that is kind of like the ultimate dream of a founder, is to figure out what my limits are.